All right, welcome to tonight's episode of the Feeney Call. Tonight's guest will be from Impact Motorsports. It'll be Christy and Devin Germain. Let me just make sure I got that right here because I don't want anyone yelling at me. I'm kind of new at this. Yeah, Christy Germain is what I got her on Facebook, so I'm going with that. For those of you who are new to the podcast, including myself, this podcast is all about motorsports. I'm not limiting it to oval track racing. I'm not limiting it to road course. So Impact Motorsports is one of the biggest derby promoters in Ontario. Plus, Devin and Christy run all across North America and help out other promotions in North America. So we're going to get them on here in a few seconds. And then if you like what you see or what you hear, please like the YouTube video. And I don't know how everything works yet, but we're all new. So any way you can help support the podcast kick off, it'd be greatly appreciated. If you have any comments of how I can improve, also let me know that too as well. So without further ado, let's bring on Devin and Christy. All right, so here we are with Christy and Devin Germain from Impact Motorsports. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes here to why don't you introduce you guys?
Go ahead.
So I'm Devin Germain. This is my wife Christy. We're the owners of Impact Motorsports. We've been in I've been in the sport my whole life pretty much. Been driving for almost 15 years. Christy has 4 years driving experience. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
We purchased Impact from Greg and Yvette Johnson in 2020, right in the middle of COVID. I don't know what we were thinking at the time, but it seemed to work out really well. And we've taken a lot of kind of different things that we found that we absolutely love about the sport, and things that we absolutely hate about the sport. And we made sure that the things that we don't like aren't involved, and the things that we love are incorporated into what we do at Impact. So it's a little bit different than when Greg and Yvette had it.
So speaking on that, you guys have become not just a demolition derby promoter, you are now an entertainment value. It's no longer you go out and you derby and then all of a sudden you wait as all the cars. You guys are getting the crowds going. You get a live DJ at most events. You're getting dancing. So why don't you explain all these other things that you're bringing as a promoter that's not just demolition derby?
So as a parent, the last thing I don't like about being in the stands is that downtime. You have kids that are with you. You have they have a lot of built up energy. Trying to get them to sit in the stands, and
They're all antsy. They want to go to the midway or something else.
and they're like all excited about seeing the cars smash and then the cars stop, and it's like, well, what do you do? So we decided that instead of having them just sit there, we would have a DJ and play some tunes. And I love to dance, so I like to get out there and kind of get the crowd involved. And we play a lot of, those kind of songs that you can get the crowd up and dance. Like, people, how can you not dance to like Cotton Eye Joe and stuff like that?
And we've
So
seen some great crowd involvement in many fairs where the kids are down. They come out of the grandstand, so they down the grass and they start dancing around with their families. It seems to be a pretty big or family atmosphere now.
yeah, and that's what the biggest thing for us is, to get the whole family involved and have people understand that when you're coming to a derby, yeah, you're coming to watch cars crash and smash up, but you're also there because you're paying for an event, a whole production value, instead of it just being sitting in the stands watching cars get cleared from the track. So if we can do anything to make it easier for the parents, 100%, why not?
So do you guys, when you're doing your mid intermission, let's call it entertainment, do you guys do any like contests for like the kids that are dancing and stuff like that? Is that like a thought process that you're starting, or like, or are you just like seeing exactly how far this goes?
Well, at some of the fairs close to the end of the season, we had a good idea that, hey, maybe we should go and buy some glow sticks, buy some candy around Halloween, and all the kids are down participating. We throw a bunch of stuff into the audience, and that seemed to be very well accepted. And
we grabbed the little mini footballs.
Yep.
And we had our crew that are along that side where the fans are. They'd throw a football into the stands, have them throw a football back, and they play catch with the people in the stands.
And it seems to get a lot more involvement when we do stuff like that.
Yeah, and so we do have a couple giveaways. We played a couple music trivia and demolition derby trivia games with some of the kids, and gave out like some squish balls and threw stuff like that into the crowd, and they seem to really it's really well received. So we're going to probably continue with that.
Yeah, we had sponsors bring up like frisbees and stuff with their logo on them, and so here just throw them out to the crowd. So we do all that on the intermissions and stuff too.
So going on with involvement, you guys were just today doing the school class. Why don't you go through the things you were teaching the kids on how to build a derby car and what it's like, or if other schools want to get involved, like what would they need to get you guys to come out and help teach this program to get more kids involved?
So we actually were contacted by the Clinton or the Huron, South Huron Secondary School, and they reached out to us and asked us if we would be interested in coming in and doing a class because they have 4 of their students that are running in the Clinton Derby, and they're building a derby car. Or actually had 2 derby cars in there that they were building, and we thought it would be a great opportunity to go out and have a chance to talk with the kids and be able to kind of give them some advice. So there was a team of, I think there was 6 of us that went out, and Devin and Ricky we kind of did a presentation. We gave them a battery box, talked about safety, talked about different things. We gave a little gift bag to every one of the students. There were 25 of them. We gave a gift bag with things like zip ties, electrical tape, some, of course, impact decals and Fab Farm decals and that sort of thing. And we talked to them about different stuff, different aspects, and knowing what class is a good class for you to start out in, the financial aspect of demolition derby, the safety, having safety at home as well as on the track, things like that. And then they got to actually, after we kind of did just a little speech about it, they got to help build. And so they're helping teach them how to take out windshields. And
so the kids being kids, they like the idea of smashing windows. So I'm trying to teach them that there's a much easier way to take windows out without smashing them. They come out in one piece. And we had a windshield out in 5 minutes. So the kids were like, oh, this is way easier. There's no mess. And they had another car there that was almost finished. So it was a good experience to walk around and point out not so much flaws, but like just tips for future safety. And for example, they had the fuel line laying across the top of the motor. So this is where your zip ties come in. You're going to take those zip ties, you're going to zip tie it up all over here. So that way there's no way of it bouncing around. No chance of falling down and getting on something hot. They had to go through the firewall. So here's a prime example where you can have your electrical tape. You're going to get your piece of heater hose, go over top of the fuel line, tape it up. That way there's no chance of it getting cut. So it was a good example to use for safety points. They had their battery box real close to a door. I'm like, if you move that over 3-4 inches, this is going to benefit you because of this, right?
And if there was, we've had a couple interests from a couple other students that have seen what's going on, and basically all they need to do is have their one of their teachers reach out to us by email and let us know, and we'd be more than happy to go out and do it with any school that wants us to come out. But we spent the whole day there.
Yep, we were there. My high school had that when I was in there.
Yeah, we were there from 10 a.m. and we left at just after 3 or just before 3.
Yep.
All right. So before we go tonight, I'll get you to send me your email and I'll include it with the podcast when I upload it. So somebody can email you, and then hopefully we'll get more teachers. Maybe this is a whole winter thing. You go to a couple schools because you know what? There's kids need to be involved in something. Like not enough kids are getting hands on. Like I know I did derbies from 2010 till I want to say 17 is when I finally quit because I wasn't really focused on safety and I hit my head too many times. And now it's like, all right, now I'll do demo cross and stuff, but I'm not doing full blown derbies anymore. It's just, for me, it's not worth it just because it's a health thing now. Yeah. So, and that's another thing is some people didn't realize that if you spend the money on, like, say, a good helmet, Devin, you probably know what it's like. You buy a good helmet, you bang your head, but you're not concussed. Halftime, you'd go out there with, oh, look, this Skidoo helmet's been on my wall since 1978, right?
That'll work.
So,
it's funny you were talking about that because we were actually talking about that on the drive home because Daniel's going to buy a new helmet this weekend. And
at Royal Distributing, they have a 50% off sale.
Yeah, so. I'm like, well, I'm busy this weekend because we have a bunch of other running around to do. I'm like, so he's going to send me some pictures and hopefully pick me up a new one too.
It's good to replace it every couple of years because they do take a lot of abuse and you are smacking your head off of different things all the time in that car. So it's, as soon as they start getting kind of scuffed up, it's good to replace them. Like I like to have Devon's replaced about every 2 years, 3 years, because you don't want to.
They get beat up.
You can't replace that, right?
Yeah. Also, another thing too, when we were in the class, which is a good example, was I asked the class how many of them play football or hockey, And there was quite a few of them put their hands up. I said, all right, well, how many of you guys would do that without padding now? And everybody put their hands down. Now, how many people are going to get into a car accident without padding up? I said, some people get into a car accident, ruins their whole life. We're purposely getting into 50 of them in a night. And then we're going to do it again next weekend, and again next weekend. I said, you got to buy those elbow pads, buy those knee pads, wear a back belt, stuff like that. Protect yourself, because one day when we're old and we retire, we're going to want to use our joints still. Those are wise words from Reg Bonneau. He told me himself.
Reg Bonneau said,
I used to be that cool kid, just threw a helmet on and I was good to go. And he said, nope, you're going to want to use your joints one day. Buy the elbow pads, buy the knee pads. And it saved me quite a bit.
So, Devin, we're going to go a little bit in your experience here, because you are a very entertaining driver to watch. I just literally watched yesterday a video of you down at Bash for Cash where you knocked the camera sideways in the relic class. So let's go over what you like to drive like, and that's the Mad Dog style. I don't really see many episodes of, you putting for dough. So why don't you go through the what Impact likes to seek out of their drivers, and like what people should actually go out there and expect to do, and like if they were going for their first derby.
So for me as a child, everybody loves watching the guy that's going crazy, right? But for Impact, we reward both. Obviously, if you drive to win, that's how you get your trophy, get your money. If you want to go out there and put a show on for the fans, that's how you get your Mad Dog flag. We reward the Mad Dog drivers at the end of the year with the big invitational. We reward the people who like to drive for the win with the point series at the end of the year. So all driving styles are respected. All driver styles are rewarded. I'm not going to go out there and tell you have to hit at 100 miles an hour, because it's just not going to happen. And if everybody drove my way, it'd be entertaining for a minute or two. But if every single person drove the exact same, it's no fun anymore. You need to have driving styles from every genre, right?
You need a balance of those crazy drivers that like to, put on a show, and those drivers that like to make that chess match where they're kind of strategically picking their hits and taking their time and using their shot clock
and dodging those Mad Dogs. Every single driving style is what makes a heat what it is. And I have driving around for the money. I've done it before. I've got the trophies for it. It's not my thing. I don't enjoy it. I find it way more difficult, and it takes a lot more patience. But again, the Mad Dog driving style isn't just split the switch, go, because it's not like that. Because when we're doing that, we're still doing those calculated hits. Like, we're not going to go and lay the strut over. We want to rip the thing clean off the car.
Yeah. I believe it was the video I was watching. I think he hit like an old Imperial, knocked the quarter panel down on the first shot.
Yes.
So
yeah, there's a lot of structure in the rear quarter panels on those old Chryslers. And if you can get those to go first, then everything will follow suit.
A lot of people are afraid to run against Imperials, but if you know where to hit them and know what to do, there's nothing to be afraid of to run against them.
Yeah, I've ran against multiple Imperials. I've beat them before. I've been beat by them. It's just the same as any other car.
Every car has a weakness. It's
Absolutely.
like back when I first started, the biggest thing in the compacts was the Volvo wagons. Everyone's like, oh, Volvo's, and yeah, you just hit them in the tie rods and they break and they can't steer, and then they're just doing donuts. Right. And then now we got the Camry's like the number one car, right? So what are your preferred choices of cars so someone's building a new car? I know you like the W bodies, but why don't you explain like what you like per class and what's some of the advantage if people are looking for these cars?
So for me, when it comes to the compacts, I've ran Camrys and W bodies. I love my W bodies because I like to be different. There's a heat of 30 cars, and when 29 of them are Camrys and you're the W body, it's just nice to be something different. Prove that you can make it a little further. For the full size, I'm a big fan of the metric GMs, simply because of the driveline you can use. I'm not a Ford guy. The 4.6s are great motors, don't get me wrong, but they're absolutely massive in the car. And that's one thing I don't like. So metric GMs are simple. 90% of the time, it's 3-wire fire. So I do like that.
You like dropping your LS in there too. And
yeah. When it comes down to like the junk runner minivans, I absolutely love my caravans because I can have one stripped and built in like 4 hours. It's a super easy build. And honestly, in my opinion, vans are the most fun to run because you have the least amount of time invested in them. They last a long time. They hit harder than anything out there. Well, anybody will argue that I've ran everything there is to run, and vans are definitely number 2 on the list. School buses are definitely number 1.
So as a promoter, we've seen derbies evolve a long way since like the 90s and stuff like that, where guys were using milk crates and like marine tanks. Why don't you go over the basic new like safety requirements for how you hold your batteries down for like some of that maybe like their dad derby. Now they're like their dad's telling them, oh yeah, you just throw it in with the milk crate and et cetera, et cetera. Why don't you tell them the proper way of doing things? So this way it's not like so we can kind of spread awareness. That way you don't have like a kid showing up with a milk crate and then all of a sudden, yeah, you can't run because that's not safe anymore because
Right.
nobody needs
So
to be hitting the head
we
with a
actually
battery.
had that. We had that at a fair last year where a driver went in with a milk crate battery box. I said, absolutely not. It's not going to fly. They're like, well, how come? This is the way we've always done it. I said, how do you have that mounted to the floor? He said, well, I have it nothing bolted. I said, how big are your washers? Not big. I'm like, all right. So if I can move this battery, he said, you won't move that battery. I said, if I can move the battery, what are you going to do? Well, I'll mount it however you want. I reached in, just grabbed the milk crate, and just ripped the whole thing out of the floor. I said, no, that's just me. You're going to get hit by a 3,000-pound car. Where do you think that battery's going to end up? Oh, yeah, I never really thought about that. So, and just recently I was cleaning out my shed and I found probably about 10 old battery boxes that I made when I first started. So I'm going to have those in our trailer, and that shows where people don't have a proper battery box. Here, just take it. But
Yeah, that's why he went to the trailer when he ripped the milk crate out of the floor. He went to the trailer and grabbed
we have one.
a Jeffy's Fab Farm battery box and brought it to him and said, here, replace that with this, and then you're good to run. Yeah. So he went and replaced it. And
there were still people who like to put them in the passenger seat, which as long as there's zero movement, I'm all right with, but I'd much rather see it in a proper steel bracket where I know for sure if the car's upside down, that battery's staying in the exact same spot. Same with the gas tanks. You see people always wanting to ratchet strap them to the floor. It might seem perfectly fine in the garage, but you haven't been in an accident yet. You haven't been hit. As soon as that car bends, what's going to happen? The floor is going to bend. That ratchet strap's going to get loose. Now you have a tank flopping around. So a steel bracket properly bolted to the floor or attached to the cage, 100% the way to go.
My thing was when I was doing my gas tanks, I'd have them in a steel bracket to the floor, and then I had it also ratchet strapped down. So if say the floor started caving up, I had a second way of holding that tank down. Yeah. Because when I first started, I had a tank flip over on top of the battery. I'm like, okay, I'm getting the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Gas plus electricity means no.
Yeah, it means get out.
So
yeah.
So what's your like goals like with Impact Motorsports? Where do you want to see this in say 10 years? Like what kind of events do you guys want to be running? Like obviously you have fall brawl. Is there like other big events that you want to have, or like is it like you want to grow this to basically be one of the primary in North America, like where you can basically be like we're Ontario's demolition like team? Like I know that's kind of a throw off to your competitors, but like you know what I mean?
Well, right now, like when we started in 2020, we did 12 shows. Last year in 2021, sorry, in 2020 we did 2 shows.
Yeah.
In 2021 we did 12 shows. In 2022 we did 26 shows, and this year right now we have 38 shows scheduled. So Fall Brawl is our biggest. We picked up Kawartha Downs, so there are 2 large shows that we're doing as far as purse payouts. $20,000 purse payout to win at both shows.
And then Uxbridge Fair, which is another huge payout.
We picked up Uxbridge Fair, which is $14,000 purse. You know, we have a bunch of fairs that are on board with making sure that they have amazing payouts. Where would we like to go from here?
I would love just to make Fall Brawl huge and just keep it as a yearly event where it's talked about everywhere. Everybody talked about it. I want to go down anywhere and be like, hey, have you heard of Fall Brawl? Oh, yeah. And I want everybody to know it.
So, like, you basically want to get this back to where it was almost like a 2-day event, where it's like almost like a weekend, like bring whatever you got left. And yeah, we had WoW up here in Orono for, I think it was 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
That was actually the last derby I ran.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, that was
we'd love to expand Fall Brawl. But it's really tough on our staff.
It's brutal on the staff.
Like the 1-day show as it is, it's a lot, and it's you're out in the elements, and you're out and you don't know what it's going to be like in October in Lindsay. Could be snowing. Last year was gorgeous. Could be raining. We've been to Fall Brawl with every type of weather under the sun.
Snow, and then you're wearing shorts the next year,
and you're
sometimes all on the same day. It snows in the morning. It's beautiful. I had that. I think when we were running trucks, it was the year it was raining real bad. Then all of a sudden it started snowing. Then it was sunny. It's like, make up your mind.
Yeah, right.
Exactly. And our staff is up at 6 a.m. They're in the tech barn, they're getting ready, they're doing a million things, and then they're on the wall flagging. And
the drivers don't see it, the spectators don't see it, but the crew, honest to God, like we couldn't do it without them because they work their asses off morning, noon, and night, every day off. They're on the phone answering questions. And like Chris was saying for Fall Brawl, like, well, some of them don't come up until the morning before the show, and they're up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and we're in the tech barn until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they're on the wall till 10 o'clock at night. And then, like, by the end of the show, our crew was like exhausted. Like
so
they put their
hard.
yeah, they put in
100%
like the entire time, but like at the end of it, like we go to have dinner at the end of the show, and like they're falling asleep on their plates.
Yeah.
So, and it's just tough. So to spread that over 2 days, it just wipes them out. And especially after 40 shows in a season. And we have like a bunch of weekends in September where we're doing 7 shows in 4 days. And it's a lot of work, and it's putting a lot of pressure on our staff.
It's a lot of travel time, which is also exhausting.
Yeah, a lot of travel time, a lot of time away from your families, and they love it. Now, our staff, we can't say enough. If it wasn't for them, we wouldn't exist. Like there would be no Devin and Christy. There would be no Impact.
They push us more than most people would think.
Yeah, we check with them before we book any show, and they are always, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it.
We'll say, hey, we have a show contacting us, but we're already booked. It's like, well, we only have one that day, right? Yeah. Well, let's do 2. I'm like, as long as you guys are up for it, we don't want to work you guys to the bone. No, let's do it. Let's do it.
So, and right now as it stands, even if you look at the promoters in the US, like Smash It, we were talking with Tim Clark a couple weeks ago, and like Tim even cut back on all of his shows. He was the largest promoter in North America, and he cut back on his shows. And he actually said to us, you guys realize that you're now the largest promoter in North America. You have more shows than any other promoter in North America currently. And that kind of hit us. Like, we were like, wow, it
was a long drive home when we're talking about all that.
That's insane.
Like, it's pretty wild.
Yeah, that's crazy to think that us 2 little people sitting here in like Shirkston, Ontario, and now we've got the largest promotion company in North America, and it's very humbling.
Yeah.
So one thing is being with a large promotion company is you're never going to make everyone happy, but what's one thing that you do to keep drivers happy coming to be an Impact Motorsports driver, guys that will follow your point series and stuff like that, other than just purse payouts and stuff like that?
I think biggest thing is respect.
Yes, 100% respect.
100%. And you have to respect your drivers, and you have to treat them well with respect. And we have a lot of drivers, like we just do things just a little bit differently. Like as the drivers come in and you get them to stop to come in, and you're doing like brake check, helmet check, all that stuff. Devin stands there and shakes every single driver's hand and says, thank you for coming.
Every driver, every show.
And I think that's just that in itself is enough. And there's a lot of times where, we'll hand out a Mad Dog flag, for example, but maybe someone got put up on the wall right away, or they put on an amazing show, but it wasn't quite the show to win the Mad Dog because someone pushed a little bit harder. And Devin will just walk up to them and hand them $50 or $100 out of his pocket and say, here, this is like your tough luck because you got put on the blocks and you have a brand new car. Bring it back to another show. Here's your entry fee back.
Or hopefully help cover your gas to get here, stuff like that.
Yeah, so it's just like doing those little things and just being able to have different classes and listening to what the drivers want.
That's a huge one too, is listening to the drivers. Like that's why at the end of every season I put up a big page and take input from every driver for rules. And again, you're not going to make everybody happy. Like some people want kicker cars in full-size stock heats, and it's just not going to happen. But they don't want to run the kicker car class.
But like things like figure 8 wanting to run any tire they want. Why can't they run any tire they want? Why has it always been that they have to run a DOT approved snow tire maximum kind of thing?
And now almost every single car on the track for that class has digger tires. Like same with the compacts. Like before, we were never allowed diggers unless it was a pro class. It's just a tire. Anybody can buy one. Yeah. And it doesn't win you the Derby, but it keeps your tires going. It just makes for a better show, right?
So it's just like the little things like that. Just giving the drivers some additional benefits, bringing additional classes here that they've never seen before, like the 2-man extreme class. And really working with the youth and doing the youth class and all that sort of stuff. And it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of giving back a little bit more and doing that. And that's, I think, what makes the drivers want to run for us.
So you talk about all the different classes. I want to talk about my favorite one that I was at Fall Brawl last year. I want to know if you're bringing it back. I really hope you are. But are you bringing it back, the Royal Rumble?
That we haven't decided 100% on, because we've done it with the pro stock cars, we've done it with the pro trucks, we've done it with pro compacts. It's been done at all the Buried Alive or the Dead Man shows. Jason Dixon's doing it at the Dresden show. I haven't decided if we're going to do it again yet.
The Rumble was amazing. Like, I have to say, when we did the very first Rumble at Bimbrook, and it was the pro stock Rumble,
Sold out right away.
It sold out immediately, and it was awesome. And no one knew when they were coming in. And we had Reg Bonneau pointing, let's go, you're in. And it went really well. And the drivers said that it was such a different high for them, that you're sitting there and you don't know when you're going in.
You see somebody walk by you, and it's like, is it me? Is it me? Oh, thank God it's not me
right?
yet.
And that anticipation. And they said it was such a different thing. And we're like, you know what? Let's try it with the compacts. We did it with the compacts. Great turnout with the compacts.
Crazy hard hitting. It was awesome.
We did it with the trucks in Lindsay, the pro trucks. And again, great turnout. It was
crazy action. It was
awesome action. Jason Dixon's now doing it with the stock trucks at Dresden. Awesome opportunity for people like our staff who hasn't had a chance to run it. And TJ McCullough at Deadman, who started it, he's done the vans and all that sort of stuff.
He's done vans, he's done the full-size cars, he's done the compacts a couple times.
Yeah, we haven't decided if we're going to throw it back into Fall Brawl or not yet. We've kind of set a tentative schedule for Fall Brawl, so we have a space for 2 classes, and we haven't decided which 2 we're going to run yet.
I've had people are asking to do a Rumble with the junk run class, and if you've seen how hard some of those guys hit now, I don't think the junk run Rumble is a good idea, because they'll be catching heads in the grandstands. Because those guys like to hit hard in those vans.
Yeah, that'd be like a junkyard Rumble. Freaking, that's a whole different problem.
It'd be crazy.
Another thing is, you do something like with like the stock compacts instead of the pros. Like those guys that go in first, they can't do those big hits. They got to save them too, right?
Yeah.
So that brings a whole other strategy, because you have a pro car. A lot of these guys, it's not back like in the 90s where a pro car was like, oh, I kicked the doors and I added like 3 bars. And
I threw a small block in a Ford. I'm good to go.
Yeah. Nowadays, it's like, I remember when the biggest thing I did cheating was stuffing the frame in a Nissan Sentra. Like, ooh, like that was like 6 inches of shelf, dude. That, like, it didn't move, but I'm like, still compared to some people, freaking that's underbuilt.
Yeah,
right.
Well, now they're like mini tanks.
Exactly. So that could be something too, that you could throw a strategy into it too. It's like, so obviously it comes from wrestling, right? So you think if you watch the old WWE Royal Rumble, entry number 1 can't go nuts right from the beginning. So
you'd be exhausted.
So maybe that's something you got to go, is maybe a stock class deserves to go for the Rumble this year. If you bring it back, I'm not going to push too hard, because
we may bring it back. If not, we'll probably bring it back next Fall Brawl. Like, it's one of those classes. Like, there's a couple different options that we're kind of toying with. So we'll see. We haven't decided. We haven't printed it up yet.
All right. So another question I want to ask you guys. So obviously I'm doing this on all motorsports. Besides Demolition Derby, Figure 8, Demo Cross, and stuff like that, what other motorsports would you guys like to try?
Like, personally?
Personally.
So I love racing. So I would do circle track racing. Like, I would race.
I've tried the circle track thing. Not my thing.
I like going fast. If I can go fast and not have to crash, I would be into it. Like, Demolition Derby is Devin's thing. I don't mind it. It's fun. I don't get that butterfly and crazy thing. I get into a car and it's calm, and I go into the ring and I just have a job to do. Where Devin gets in and he's adrenaline, and he's like,
Which is why I would love to do the rallycross racing. I would love to give that a shot one day.
Oh, you and I rallycross racing. Could you imagine if I was driving and you were the pilot?
I'd be in another car racing you.
No,
yeah, no. Rallycross is just driver. Full out rally, you have the co-driver.
Long distance rally.
That's what we should do.
Because rallycross, usually there's 2 cars on the track and it's head to head.
Right. We should do the ones that, like, the Tall Pines rally that they have that go through like Bancroft and stuff. You and I would do.
That's one thing I would love to try.
Yeah, that we would do. You would be great at like directions, and I'd be driving.
All right, so maybe when I'm down like your guys' way and I have my mini stock out, maybe we'll sneak you out, Christy, and we'll slam you in the car. And so, what kind of racing did you try, Devin? Because I didn't know you even did any oval track racing.
I've done pretty much just the enduro races and all that. I've done them at some tracks where there's anything goes, it's wide open, do whatever you want, take people out in the corners. I've had some where if you race rough, you're getting black flag. So I've done a couple of those enduro races, and I don't know,
Yeah,
I lost interest like pretty quick.
it's weird when you can't hit somebody. My biggest thing is when I switched from derby to racing, someone would spin in front of me like, "Ooh, axle shot! Crap! Brake!"
Right. Break.
Yeah, that's not so. Luckily, some guys still had a white door, so it was still good.
Right.
But we're slowly closing down here. I got about 8 minutes left before this stops recording. But so is there anything that you guys would like to express to your guys' fans and drivers in closing here?
I think the one thing that we haven't touched on that I really wanted to mention is our youth program. We have an amazing youth program. We've partnered with like Frankie Guy at Hardcore in the States, and we have the Youth Nationals. So we actually are looking for youth drivers that stand out to us, that are wheel men or wheel women, and that have a lot of track awareness and ring awareness. And we nominate them to be able to go down and compete at a national level spot in the US, and it gives them such an awesome opportunity.
Yeah.
And our youth are the reason that we have a healthy influx right now of drivers. We have a lot of youth this year that are graduating and going to adult, and we just really want to continue to perpetuate that with our drivers, is that youth program.
Yeah.
It's really good.
It's working too, because you walk the pits in a lot of the small shows and just take a look at the drivers. Like, and when I'm doing the drivers meeting, there's a lot more of a younger crowd nowadays, because eventually some of the veterans had to retire. They're slowing down.
And their
The
kids
youth guys are coming up out of the youth program, or just growing up and jumping right into the adults. And the crowd is actually getting to be a lot younger, and they're eager, and they'll have the ambition to keep going, right?
And we just really appreciate the drivers coming out and supporting us. Like, they didn't have to. They can choose to spend their money elsewhere. They can choose to go to different promoters. They can choose to go to different events.
They can go racing.
And they can go race. They can do a lot of other things. And we just really are thankful that we have the backing and the following, because we set the stage and they are the show. So we just give them a platform. They're the ones that put on the show, and we're just so grateful that they've allowed us to be part of their family.
We do our best to make it as fair as possible, and as long as the drivers are having a good time, they're going to come back and treat them right, and hopefully they keep coming back.
So with that being said, you talked about a few big shows, so I'm probably going to get this out hopefully right before May. Why don't you tell us some of the dates that you have of the big shows coming up, and we can try to get some more drivers to help you guys out.
So June 16th, we have the Dungannon Super Drags and Demolition Derby out in Lucknow. It's down near London area. We also have June 17th, the Kawartha Downs, Kawartha Smackdown. August 5th, we have the Kawartha Fair. And then we have October 21st is Fall Brawl. So those are our big ones.
Uxbridge
is September the 9th. So we have a double header that day. We have Aurelia in the morning and Uxbridge in the afternoon. So they're 45 minutes apart. Come down and hit them both.
I know some drivers who plan on driving in both of those shows, so that'll be pretty cool. It'll be a busy day for them.
And the great thing about Uxbridge is Uxbridge partnered with Markham Fair this year. So if you enter into Uxbridge and you run Uxbridge, and then you enter into Markham Fair and run Markham Fair, every single driver is going to get a gift for doing that. And they're also going to be entered into a draw that we're going to actually have a couple different, like, sawzalls or some tools and prizes that we will draw at Markham for the drivers that ran both shows. So it's a joint venture, and we have a lot of fairs that are starting to do that. And it's great to have our fairs starting to kind of come together and do those sorts of things. So
yeah, communication with the fair boys lately has been awesome. They've been emailing us back and forth, phoning us back and forth, and coming up with good ideas. And then everybody seems super excited for this year to get into it.
And then we also have the Rockton, the 3 days at Rockton, which is our championship weekend. So that's where the Mad Dog Invitational will run. That's where the Figure 8 Championship and the Derby Championship, as well as running up the Youth Championship, will be there as well. And we also have all of our events are listed at www.impactmotorsports.ca.
Awesome. So I can't wait to see you guys in my hometown in Orono. I'm assuming you guys are getting that show again, because
we do.
So I'm assuming it's going to be both days of demo cross again on the
It will be.
Thursday. So maybe I'll have a car ready this year instead of just last year I had the car ready and I'm like, oh, it's too clean. I can't wreck this in demo cross. and then I just ended up selling it because I didn't have time to build it into a race car. I'm like, I should have just wrecked it.
Well, definitely come over. Even if you don't have a car, come on over and see us and say hi. You can be our guest flag waver.
Well, last year I was secretly messaging you, trying to get you to go with like all the jokes of all the 3 cars in the one heat.
I know you're sending me a message, but it's like so when I have like people talking in my ear and Fairboard's talking to me and people texting me, it's like a lot of stuff going on. So yes, you did.
Easily better show.
Yeah.
So anyway, like I said, maybe I'll jump in there. Maybe I'll sit there and talk with if you guys need a little bit of help talking. Maybe I'll have a car. Maybe I'll try to do some talking from inside the car.
That would be
awesome.
cool.
So anyway, I'm gonna hit the stop record button here and freaking I'm hopefully maybe we'll get you guys back on again. Maybe we'll do something live at one of the derby tracks, or maybe if you pop at the racetrack. And so I'm gonna post all your guys' information at the end, and I'll get that all for when it's on the YouTube and stuff like that. All right.
Sounds good.